Good morning. My name is Cornelius Saunders, and I would say I'm the international member of this cohort. In fact, for each of the sessions, I flew from the Philippines, which is about 15 hours each way. At that point in time, I was working on an economic research program that evaluated the effectiveness of an ultra-poverty alleviation program. As a result, I was spending a lot of my time traveling around remote parts of the Philippines. I witnessed families, large families, living in bamboo shacks with no running water, no sewage systems, and very little food. Imagine your family exposed to famine, to natural disasters, to disease, and even violence. And so this project looks at the ways in which we, as a global community, can fight against the crippling conditions of severe poverty. Now, this was a wonderful experience for me, and it left me with a very valuable but very narrow skill set. The Churchill program broadened my experience, gave me additional skills through A, the diversity of the incoming cohort of my peers, and B, through the excellent instruction that we received while here. I'll give you two examples. The first is Tola James, who has a startup called Nari Palm Juice. Now, what does a for-profit startup have to do with economic development? Well, he's promoting sustainable harvesting of palm sap in Nigeria. That means environmental sustainability. It means sustainable livelihood for farmers, for poor farmers. Another example, Will Briggs. He's working on a way of reducing drug trial costs. Again, for profit. And how does this help my line of work, economic development? Well, cheaper drugs will allow more drugs, and that will benefit these diseases that I have seen in the Philippines. But now is to treat them better. Now, the instruction. We learned not just about ourselves in terms of internally managing ourselves. I'm a maverick, which is an unusual combination of creative and driver. I didn't really know, that wasn't very common in the group. I think it was just me and Tola, actually. And then the second thing was managing other people, learning about the different types of leaderships so that we can empower people to do more. Alone, I can do very little. But through my work, I can engage others and therefore have a greater effect. So when I go back to economic development, when I go back to the field, I can work with my team, I can see their strengths, I can see their weaknesses, I can manage myself. And together, we can have the difference that this world needs. We can help these people who are living in terrible, terrible conditions.
So my name's Hazel Thornton. I'm just going to tell you a quick, brief introduction about the work I do, the way in which my leadership skills have developed over the past year, and the way in which I've applied the skills and experience to strengthen my own leadership. So I work as a marine conservationist. I work at one of the longest acronyms in conservation, so the United Nations Environmental Programme World Conservation Monitoring Centre. It's a quick one, don't worry. So through that work, we work with policy makers and governments to inform them about the sustainable management of their marine resources. So we're working on protecting the diverse and marine and coastal habitats and biodiversity across the world, and also with national governments. So when I first started the Leadership Fellowship last year, I had just come back from Montserrat, which is one of our UK overseas territories in the Caribbean. I was working in the field, and we were working on mapping coral reefs and protected rainforests on the island, which has been affected by volcanoes in the last 20 or so years. So through that, my leadership was very practical. I was having to lead groups underwater in diving. Non-verbal communication is always very difficult. And also working in remote locations, up mountains, in thick rainforests. So it was very practical leadership. I was responsible for the safety of many people on an island which has 2 earthquakes a day. So these aspects are very practical. And then coming back to work at UNEP WCMC, it was a very big change in my leadership skills. And the Churchill Leadership Fellows helped me with that and made me understand how I could be a dynamic leader. So it's now more on a cognitive level. So I'm working as a team and also independently in order to accomplish high-level analysis and help the governments make proactive and impactful decisions about their marine and coastal areas. So through this change in my leadership, I've experienced a few challenges. Maybe some of you in the audience have also experienced imposter syndrome, where you think you're constantly going to be found out for not being quite as good as what people think you are or how people perceive you as. But the Leadership Fellowship enabled me to see this as a challenge that I could overcome rather than a weakness that will stop me from doing things. And a couple of weeks ago in Italy, I was attending a workshop as a participant, and that was flipped on its side, and I was then leading the workshop for 2 days. I was the youngest person in the whole room, many years experience below everyone else, but I managed to get through that and got congratulated on my enthusiasm, which is always a good one. So I've changed those weaknesses into challenges that I will overcome. And these skills that we've learned, and many of us have learned, have also been in a great partnership with the relationships that we've built. I think it's safe to say we have a very open and honest and trusting relationship between all of the leadership fellows. And that's really helped us to all develop personally and all feel vulnerable, but also feel supported in that. And I think that's why we have developed so much as a cohort. So I'd like to thank all my fellows, leadership fellows, for their support, and also all the mentors, and really promote this leadership fellows and all of the work that they do.
Teamwork, respect, enjoyment, discipline, sportsmanship. These are the core values as given by England Rugby. Excellence, teamwork, leadership, PwC. Pride, teamwork, credibility, Goldman Sachs. Teamwork, integrity, privilege. These are the core values as given by the asset management firm which I joined this summer. It seems that the values which underpin these companies or institutions' successes are broadly consistent. It follows then that the challenges to leaders in these regards ought to be consistent too. It's my understanding that the role of leaders is to exhale these values and affect the people, the teams, society around them. It also seems that the role of the leader has become recently somehow softer and less conspicuous than in the time of the namesake of this college. This century has seen tremendous technological advance, and this presents an opportunity to young people to materially influence the world. In many ways, the barriers to starting businesses, social enterprises, are somewhat lower. And I would implore you to speak to some of the leaders we have here and learn about some of the work they're doing. It's quite wonderful. On the other hand, young people face tremendous pressures today. Pressures to outperform their peers, to charter out their educations, their careers, their aspirations from the outset. And it's rare that you can take the time to actually understand who you are. Believe it or not, I've long had the desire to work in finance, and it's much rarer that I've thought about how I want to affect other people. A great hero of mine is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and in a speech he implores the listener, ask yourself who you want to be, not what, but who. I think it's a different perspective and one which is often overlooked. I applied to this program because I want to understand who I am, what my values are, what's fundamental to me. I'm incredibly privileged to be on this program, which has emerged out of the vision and generosity of time of a great many people, and including, not limited to, Gillian and Krish. The benefit of this program needs to be viewed in the long term. While it's true that some people, Cornelius, Tola, Patrick, others, are using this knowledge and experience immediately in the enterprises that they've started. I joined this course while finishing my PhD, and I now work in London. So for some of us, the benefit won't be seen today, but tomorrow. For my part, my experience is that this is a different perspective to my personal and professional development. I've had time to reflect on those things that ought to be important to me. I've had exposure to world leaders, world experts in leadership, and the ability to now be conscientious of effective leadership. I'm confident that as a result of being on this program, I will be a more effective leader in whatever capacity that role comes to me in the future. And moreover, I think I have the courage now to believe that people can make a difference in the world. The power of change won't come from states and institutions, but from people, and just possibly some of the people that sit in this room. So thank you.